and welcome to another tutorial in the Smile Game Builder tutorial series. I have some exciting news, guys. SmileBoom has implemented a nice new feature, camera control, and this will be released sometime tomorrow at the time of recording this video, or at least by the time this video circulates. And of course, for those who have been following SGB on Twitter and Facebook will already know about this feature. So for this tutorial, that's just what we'll be showcasing. It'll be another multi-parter, but I'll revisit controlling cameras at a later date because I'd like to focus on other features. Now, being able to control the camera is very useful, of course, particularly for effect. It has several possibilities, including for cutscenes to add extra dimensions or to build and enhance tension. New maps where you can use it to pan across so that you get the lay of the land, so to speak, especially on larger maps. Zooming into particular areas from above or to NPCs' faces, just for that added effect. The possibilities this opens up. Anyway, I've been playing around with this for a while and I'm really stoked about this update. The way it's set up may seem somewhat odd in the beginning, but it's not that bad once you get used to it. We'll do quite a bit of play testing in this video just to demonstrate how it all works and how it fits together, but I'll edit out the title screen each time and go straight into the play tests. Now, the first place we'll look at is the map itself. Under the map settings, you have the camera settings for this map. You have camera mode and camera settings. And there are two other options: disable zoom angle controls and disable camera switching. They were already there, I believe, but they're still related in a way to the camera. Normally you'd press B to switch between first-person perspective and normal view when you're playing the game, but checking disable camera switching pretty much disables this option. Likewise, you'd press C and V to zoom in and out, Q and E to rotate left and right, and R and F to rotate up and down respectively. So disable zoom angle controls prevents any of these from being used. The camera mode defaults to normal or overhead isometric view, and as it says, first person view forces a first person perspective on whichever map it's set. Now, in the camera settings, unspecified is considered as normal view because obviously you haven't set up any cameras, and specified is where you can set the camera angles to create those movie-like events that you want. And here you can change the settings, the X, Y, and so on. We can either click and drag the mouse. The left mouse button will do the 3D view, and the right mouse button will move it across and up and down like so. Or you can also set them manually using the middle mouse button or the mouse wheel. X is for up and down, and Y is left and right. The maximum and minimum values are: X is negative 89, which as you can see is directly overhead, and it has a maximum of 89, which is right below the map. Actually, you know what, I haven't seen this before. It looks a bit weird, like a topsy-turvy world. Anyway, Y has a minimum of 0 which is pretty much the direct front view, and it has a maximum of 360. Well, close enough to 360, which is actually a full turn. So distance is basically how far in or out the camera can zoom, with a maximum overhead view or a maximum zoom out view of 100. That should be plenty enough. Zooming all the way in to 0, which is its minimum, will be just below the floor or just beyond the walls. You probably won't use 0 ever though. Next is the field of view, which is how close or how far away objects, maps, etc. are. You should be able to zoom in all the way to 0.5. See those pixels? Cool. And the maximum view is 89.5, which is like warp speed away, quite far out. And you notice how things stretch. You can also have some presets, camera angles, if you want to reuse your settings. So say for instance we wanted to change this to, I don't know, far out, just because like that. You would click save and you'd be able to reuse them. This is very useful because there can be a lot of repetition setting up the cameras, especially for effects or cutscenes. So for an experiment, let's give most of the settings their maximum values, or at least maximum minimal. So we'll set X to -89, the distance to 100, and the field of view all the way to 89.5. As you can see, the house is a pinprick. So now what if we play test that a minute? We'll add a new event, and then we'll do the one time only camera. The camera settings are under special effects and music under the top. So we'll set that same thing, and then field of view would be 89.5. So when you play test it, okay, yeah, we forgot. Let's set the starting position. I forgot it's still set for the house. So try again. And as you can see, it'll zoom all the way out. Kind of like those special effects where if you zoomed all the way out to planet. I rather like those. And of course you can reverse the settings in the event, and we can actually set the map settings here so that they would be all the way out. This would be the start, and then we can change these event settings to somewhere a little different. Maybe put that back to 0. Okay. Just check system default. See how useful that actually becomes. If you mess up and you got saved, you can just basically go back to the system default and that'll work. So we play test again and you can see the result. And there you have it. Zooms all the way in. again. So let's modify this a minute. Let's just delete it and add it again. If we create a new, yeah, this time okay, this time we'll do it in the house. So we make this start point again. And set it to triggered once. Now on the map, let's zoom in to somewhere near the stove. So we'll do x minus 45, keep y at 0. The distance would be, I don't know, say 30. And the field of view will set to 2.5. This time when we play test it, it'll zero in on the main character. We can also, here in the camera controls, we can also speed up or slow down the camera movement. 0 will just go straight to the source without waiting. If we set this to 5 seconds, it'll slow down somewhat. The maximum amount you can have in here is actually 100 seconds, and that is really slow. In fact, you could probably go to the store, make a cup of coffee and get something to eat and still have time left over by the time it zoomed all the way in. Can you imagine if we'd had that map zoomed all the way out, how long it would actually take just to get to the house? Oh God, why would I don't know. You probably have it within a range of in between 0 and 30 seconds each time. You'll probably use rotate based on least distance most of the time, but at this point rotation is kind of useless, so we'll just skip it. Now the normal set center coordinate is different than normal, because the normal will generally zoom in to where the character is, but normal set center coordinate will zoom in to the specified coordinates. And as you can see, the output has changed here. You have the x and y coordinates, which are the locations. This will notably take into account the camera angle as well, of the XY camera angle settings, which can be manipulated again with the up and down and left and right. And the X and Y coordinates can be manipulated with a right mouse button. Now this is where rotation direction would come in handy, because when the camera angle, it would rotate slightly. So we'll go back to the system default for now. Whether you're using normal or the normal set center coordinates, the camera will actually move specifically to those XY coordinates. As I've mentioned, normal is just basically it'll zoom in on the character, but the other normal with the set center will move in to these specific coordinates, and rotate left and rotate right here will actually rotate in the opposite directions. I don't know if this is intentional or if it's a bug or if it's based on any of the map settings. It doesn't really matter because you still get the camera where it needs to be. For the first person view, the camera will only move from the perspective of the first person, and it'll rotate around to the XY coordinates of the camera angle settings. Unless the first person view with a no rotate is used. So let's set the camera angles X to -29. It's like this because it hasn't really been set up properly. So -29, and then we'll do X as 179. And then the field of view say 19, and the eye height you can set to, say, the average is 0.9, so we'll just set it to 1.2. And the reason why it switched angles like that, because if you notice that we set it there and then we check the field of view, quite often what will happen is sometimes it'll flip around because it's from the perspective of the first person, and we got to change this to 5 seconds because otherwise we'll be here forever. And there you see. The reason why it did that was because initially the main character was facing down towards the door, so it'll rotate towards the coordinates that you have set. If we add another event here and we change the player's orientation to face up, it'll still do the same, but it will rotate based on that direction. And there you see, it's facing up, so it doesn't have to rotate around to go to the coordinates you have set. Instead, it'll be looking up and it's like going down. Hello. Now, something really weird will happen if you increase the field of view to its max, which is outside that range. I'll show you what I mean briefly. If we set the camera there, and the field of view, we start changing it, the graphics will actually warp. Now, while this, I believe, is a significant glitch, it's something of a useful one if you think about it. If you use it just right, you could probably create the illusion of you know those halls that stretch and warp endlessly in like those horror movies? You could do it for something like that. I'd actually be interested to play test this and see what it looks like. Well, well, that's messed up, but okay. Yeah. Anyway, going back to the camera settings and normal field of view, eye height is something of a strange one, because if you set it to a negative number, you'll go below the floor, and if it's -3, actually if it's -1.2 to 1.5, that's right below, so you can actually go underneath the floor. But if you increase it to, like, say 7-ish, like so, you'll float overhead from the camera start's coordinates. And because you can't set the XY coordinates in the first person view, no rotate, right? You can't set the XY values, so it would only that's just below the floor, and then you move 7. You can't actually set the XY coordinates, you can only set this field of view. So basically you're going to be floating above. So for the first person view, if we do a little floating exercise and we increase the eye height to 7, like so, what should happen is the character, or the character's perspective, will actually float high above. And there he goes. Back to Earth. Now, experimenting with the different things here can lead to some interesting and unexpected, often funny results. I'll go into further details about that in a later tutorial, but that's pretty much the basis of it. So in summary, normal view will move in towards the coordinates centering around the main character. Normal center coordinates will move in to the specified coordinates, including the camera distance and the field of view and so on. First person view will be from the perspective of the character, the first person view, and it's depending on which direction he's facing, so that if you set the camera angle here and he's facing down, the camera will rotate left or right to these settings. And finally, the first person view, no rotate, just basically means that the camera will change to those positions, but it won't rotate. Now that we know how the camera control basically operates, how about having a conversation between two people with you in the middle and view the conversation from first person view? So let's go to our desert town from the previous tutorial, number 5, working with conditions. I think it was part 2. Here we'll set up 3 events, 2 people and 1 player touch event. Let's set them up near the fountain. So 1 male, 1 female, and for this, and we'll create we'll keep that as it is for now and rotate him that way, and then we'll copy and paste it on the other side, leaving a gap in between. And of course we have to rotate them the other way. We'll change his graphics to her. We should just let them stand, I guess. Yeah, there you go. Okay, now we create a blank event right slap bang in the middle. Start is making contact with the player, and then we add a control, a camera control, set it to first person view, and the time 0.4 should do it for seconds. Onto the camera settings. Again, you can move the angles accordingly, like so, but I wrote the coordinates down to save time. So x is -35 and y is 304. That's for the right. After that, we add a message or dialog box. We can put something like how rude we were. Having a conversation, so her graphics would be here in 3, and of course she'd be angry. So then we add another camera control, same as before, so we can pretty much just copy and paste it like so, but this time we change the camera settings to -42 and y would be 62. I forgot which graphic we used. Okay, yeah. Hero 3. Okay, so again we copy that and paste it. So we'll make him happy. Then in the dialog box, it's okay, dear. It's okay, dear. Hello, fine day, isn't it? So once again, we have another camera control which will reset to ahead, straight ahead, and the camera settings would be 042, and we just change the Y to 0. The rest can remain the same. You can also add another camera control to set it to normal if you like, which will switch to the overhead view. And of course, if you have more dialogue you want to follow in this manner, you can see where the preset settings would come in handy. for each conversationalist, so you can use them quickly without having to continuously copy and paste all the time. You know, for the left conversationalist, you would choose left, and for the right, you would choose right. It's probably a good idea to do this on a regular basis to avoid accidentally copying and pasting the wrong one and then having to go back and fix it. Oh, and it's important to remember as well that each of these camera controls has a separate preset savings. You can't use something that you've saved for normal with first person view, or at least that's that's in my experience, and so hence the reason for it in the first place, I guess. So now if we play test it, well, we're gonna put the start player here. It saves having to travel back and forth. And then, as you can see, two conversationalists. How rude. We were having a conversation. It's okay, dear. Hello. Fine day, isn't it? And that's it. That's how you have the conversation. Now, the other area that there is a camera settings is actually in the edit game data, where you have an option here for the camera, and you can change the camera starting positions accordingly. It's the same rules. X and Y is up and down. And then you have the distance as well, and the field of view. So what'll now happen is this is the starting position. This is whatever you set in the game, the edit game data, that will reflect on where the camera is actually on the map. So say for instance if we change this again, and we'll zoom all the way in to say here, you can see that is the starting position of the camera, and this applies to all of the maps that you create. And that's an overview of the camera control. I will revisit this at a later date, but in the meantime I'm going to end this tutorial. I don't know what the topic of the next one is yet, but don't forget, if you have requests for something you'd like to see, I'll make a log and then I'll go through them one by one, and maybe we'll have something tutorial on. So as usual, if you like this video, click like and subscribe for more, and visit Facebook, Twitter and the blog. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.